Sometimes your mind feels like a storm, thoughts swirling, questions piling up, and what-ifs building walls around your heart. You sit in silence, replaying the same scenario 100 times, as if your overthinking could rewrite destiny. I have been there, many have. It feels as though you're carrying the weight of the world, yet you forget that the one who created the world is already carrying you. I remember moments when I clung to my own plans so tightly, afraid to let go, thinking I knew what was best. But the more I held on, the heavier it became. Then came the moment of release, when I whispered a quiet prayer, "Ya Allah, I leave it in your hands." And with that, a calmness I couldn't explain took over. Life is not meant to be lived in constant mental battles. You were not created to be trapped in fear and overanalysis. You were created to walk with certainty that your Lord knows what you do not, sees what you cannot, and works for you in ways beyond your imagination. So stop replaying every mistake, every fear, every uncertainty. Trust Him. Because the moment you do, you will see how He turns storms into sunshine, delays into perfect timing, and tests into treasures. This is not just a reminder, it's an invitation to hand over your worries to the one who never fails. Overthinking is like being caught in quicksand. The more you struggle with your thoughts, the deeper you sink. It starts with something small, maybe a decision you have to make or a problem you're facing, and before you know it, your mind is spiraling into every possible outcome, most of them negative. You begin to imagine things that haven't happened, scenarios that may never happen, and problems that don't even exist yet. This mental overactivity doesn't just exhaust you, it robs you of peace. It steals the joy of the present moment, because your mind is too busy worrying about a future you can't control or a past you can't change. And while it feels like you're solving problems by thinking about them, the truth is you're only feeding the anxiety and making it harder to see a way forward. When you overthink, you are essentially telling yourself that you have to figure everything out on your own. You begin to carry the burden of life on your shoulders, as if every answer, every solution, and every outcome depends solely on you. That pressure builds silently until it turns into fear. Fear turns into hesitation, and hesitation turns into inaction. You find yourself stuck, too worried to move forward, yet too uncomfortable to stay where you are. This paralysis is one of the most damaging effects of overthinking because it traps you in a cycle of mental noise and self-doubt. Overthinking doesn't just happen during difficult times, sometimes it creeps in during moments of opportunity. You could be offered something good, but instead of embracing it, you start analyzing every possible risk, every potential downfall, every flaw in the situation. You question your worth, your readiness, your capability, until the moment passes you by. It's not always fear of failure that drives this. Sometimes it's fear of making the wrong choice or losing what you have. Yet in that fear, you end up missing blessings that were meant for you. The danger is that overthinking feels productive. You convince yourself that you're being cautious, being thorough, being smart. And yes, there's wisdom in reflection and careful thought, but there's a line between healthy reflection and destructive overanalysis. That line is crossed when your thoughts no longer guide you toward action, but instead keep you trapped in indecision. The mind becomes a battlefield, and you are fighting an enemy that exists only in your imagination. This constant mental battle also drains your emotional energy. You wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep, but because your brain never rested. Even in quiet moments you feel restless, as though you should be thinking about something important, something you might be forgetting. That's the trick overthinking plays on you. It convinces you that you're in control by thinking more, but in reality it's controlling you. It replaces peace with tension, clarity with confusion, and trust with fear. And while overthinking affects your mind, it doesn't stop there. It impacts your relationships, your health, and your spiritual state. You become so consumed by what's going on in your head that you miss what's happening around you. You're physically present but mentally absent. Your body feels the stress tightness in the chest, headaches, fatigue, all from thoughts that never had the power to change anything in the first place. Spiritually, it weakens your ability to trust. You start relying more on your own calculations and less on the one who already knows the outcome. True contentment doesn't come from having everything figured out or from controlling every aspect of life. It comes from placing your complete trust in Allah's plan. This trust is not passive. It's an active, conscious decision to believe that what Allah chooses for you is better than anything you could choose for yourself, even when it doesn't make immediate sense. There is a kind of peace that flows into your heart when you truly internalize the belief that nothing happens without His permission, and that He is far more aware of your needs than you are. You begin to see that every twist in your journey, every delay, every detour is a part of something greater, a design so intricate that only the Creator could weave it together perfectly. The heart that trusts Allah doesn't panic when things go wrong because it knows that nothing is ever truly wrong in His plan. What feels like a setback might be a step forward in disguise. What seems like a closed door might be protection from something you didn't see coming. You stop measuring your life by how quickly your prayers are answered and start appreciating that sometimes the waiting itself is an answer, shaping you for what lies ahead. The believer who trusts in Allah learns to surrender not because they are weak, but because they are wise enough to know they are in the care of the most merciful. This trust changes the way you view challenges. Instead of asking why me, you begin to ask what is Allah teaching me through this. Instead of resenting the pain, you search for the growth hidden within it. You become more patient, more resilient, and more hopeful because you know that even the hardest nights are followed by the dawn. You start to understand that your role is not to control the outcomes but to walk the path with sincerity, effort, and faith, leaving the results in the hands of the one who never fails. The beauty of trusting Allah is that it frees you from the relentless pressure to have all the answers. You don't need to predict the future or replay the past because you know that your Lord is already ahead of you, preparing what is best. This is not about ignoring reality, it's about seeing reality through the lens of faith. A believer still works hard, still plans, still makes effort, but they do so without the crippling fear of what if, because their heart is anchored in the certainty that Allah is in control. When you live with this mindset, you begin to notice blessings in places you never thought to look. Even the things you once saw as failures can start to appear as gifts. You realize that the job you didn't get, the relationship that didn't work out, the opportunity that slipped away, these may have been removed from your path for reasons beyond your understanding. And in time, you may even find yourself grateful for the very things you once cried over, because you see how they led you to something better. Trusting Allah with everything also deepens your connection with Him. You turn to Him more often, not just in crisis, but in everyday decisions. You talk to Him like a close friend, confiding in Him about your hopes and fears, knowing He listens and cares. This relationship builds a sense of inner stability that the world cannot shake. Even if everything around you changes, you are grounded in the unchanging truth that your Lord's wisdom is flawless. Every trial you face carries within it a hidden blessing, though in the moment it might feel like the farthest thing from a blessing. When hardship strikes, the natural reaction is to question, to feel frustration, or to see it only as a setback. But if you look deeper, if you train your heart to see beyond the surface, you'll begin to notice that these challenges often carry lessons, growth, and opportunities that you would not have encountered otherwise. A person might lose a job and feel as though their life is falling apart, only to later discover that the loss pushed them toward a path that brought them more fulfillment than they ever imagined. A relationship might end painfully, but that very ending could be the space needed for healing self, discovery, and preparation for something far better. The human eye often sees only what is immediate and obvious, but Allah's wisdom encompasses what has been, what is, and what will be. Sometimes what looks like an obstacle is actually a shield, protecting you from harm you cannot yet perceive. At other times, a difficulty might be the very tool that strengthens your character, develops your patience, and deepens your reliance on your Creator. Think of how gold is purified. It must endure fire to emerge in its purest form. In the same way, the believer is refined through trials, each hardship shaping them into someone stronger, wiser, and closer to Allah. Often, the hidden blessings of a trial reveal themselves only after time has passed. In the moment, all you might feel is the weight of the difficulty, the pain of uncertainty, or the sting of loss. But as you continue on your journey, you begin to see how that very moment redirected your steps towards something greater. The door that slammed shut was actually saving you from walking into a storm. The delay you experienced was giving you time to prepare for what you had been asking for. The tears you shed were watering seeds of resilience and faith that would one day bear fruit. It's in these moments of hardship that your perspective matters most. If you focus solely on the discomfort, you risk missing the lessons and the growth embedded within the experience. But if you approach the situation with the mindset that Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear, you begin to search for the wisdom in the challenge. You start asking, what am I meant to learn here? How can I emerge from this stronger than I was before? This shift in perspective doesn't make the difficulty vanish, but it transforms the way you carry it. Trials are also an invitation to reconnect with your Creator. In moments of ease, it's easy to become distracted by the world, to feel self-reliant and forgetful of the one who grants you every breath. But hardship pulls you back to Him. It humbles you, reminding you of your need for His guidance, mercy, and strength. Many people can recall moments of deep difficulty where they prayed with a sincerity they had never known before. In this way, the trial itself becomes a doorway to a stronger bond with Allah, a blessing in disguise that brings you closer to the one who knows you best. Even the pain you feel can be a form of mercy. It can soften your heart, make you more compassionate toward others, and give you the ability to empathize with those going through similar struggles. The experiences you endure can one day be the comfort you offer to someone else, allowing you to be a source of hope and guidance because you understand their pain firsthand. In that sense, your hardship becomes a gift not only for you, but for those whose lives you will touch. Surrendering control is not about giving up. It is about shifting the weight from your fragile human hands to the hands of the one whose power has no limits. Many times, the reason we feel so burdened is because we're holding onto things we were never meant to carry alone. We try to plan every detail, anticipate every challenge, and control every outcome, as if the success of our lives depends entirely on our ability to manage them perfectly. This constant need for control becomes exhausting, and the more we try to tighten our grip, the more life reminds us that some things will never be in our hands. When you surrender control to Allah, you acknowledge the truth that has always been there, that He is the master of all affairs and that His knowledge is complete while ours is limited. You stop measuring your worth by how well you can fix things and start trusting that there is divine wisdom at work even in situations that seem messy or uncertain. This surrender doesn't mean that you stop trying. It means that you put in your best effort with a heart that is free from the crushing fear of failure, because you know that the outcome is already written with perfect knowledge and mercy. Letting go opens the door for solutions you could never have imagined on your own. Sometimes when you're trying to control every detail, you unintentionally block the very blessings you've been praying for. You might insist on a specific path or outcome, but when you release that attachment and trust Allah's choice for you, He can guide you towards something even better. This is the beauty of surrender. It makes room for divine intervention, for doors you didn't knock on to open, and for paths you never saw coming to lead you exactly where you need to be. Think of the times in your life when you were certain you knew what you wanted, only to realize later that it wasn't good for you. Maybe you prayed for a particular opportunity and were disappointed when it didn't happen, only to discover later that something better was waiting. These moments are reminders that your vision is limited, but Allah's is infinite. Surrender is about leaning into that truth and trusting it fully. Surrendering control also brings a sense of relief. It allows you to breathe deeply because you are no longer carrying the unbearable weight of trying to control what was never yours to control. You stop obsessing over what if and what could go wrong, and start focusing on what can I do now with what Allah has given me. This shift brings you back to the present moment, where life actually happens, instead of keeping you trapped in the fears of the future or the regrets of the past. It is in surrender that your heart becomes light enough to experience true peace. You begin to recognize that whatever comes your way is part of a plan far greater than you can comprehend, and that plan is crafted by the one who loves you more than you love yourself. Even when the path is unclear, surrender gives you the courage to take the next step, knowing that you are being guided with care. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that surrender is not a loss of control. It is the ultimate gain, because you are handing your affairs over to the one who controls all things perfectly. Faith is proven not in moments of comfort, but in moments when fear tempts you to hold back, and yet you step forward with trust. It's easy to believe when everything is going well, when the path is clear, and when your prayers seem to be answered quickly. But the true measure of faith comes when you stand at the edge of uncertainty, unable to see the outcome, and still choose to move ahead because you know Allah is with you. This kind of faith doesn't happen by accident. It is cultivated through daily choices, through remembering His promises, and through reminding yourself that His plan is always better than your own. When you let go of fear, you create space in your heart for courage, and courage is what allows you to act even when your feelings are pulling you toward hesitation. Fear will always present you with reasons to stop, to delay, or to doubt. It will whisper that you're not ready, that the risk is too great, or that the path is too uncertain. But faith responds differently. Faith says, if Allah has guided me here, He will guide me through. Faith says, even if I don't see how, I trust that He sees the way. This shift in mindset changes the way you live, because you stop waiting for perfect conditions before taking action. Faith in action is about walking through the door Allah opens for you, even if you don't know what lies on the other side. It's about showing up with your best effort and leaving the results in His hands. It's about refusing to let fear dictate your decisions, because you know that fear shrinks your world while faith expands it. Fear will chain you to what is familiar, but faith will lead you to what is extraordinary. And each time you choose faith over fear, you strengthen the muscle of trust in your heart, making it easier to choose faith the next time. This doesn't mean you won't feel fear at all. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. Even the prophets felt fear at times, but their faith anchored them in moments of uncertainty. They relied on Allah's guidance and strength to take steps they couldn't take on their own. When you follow their example, you begin to see that fear is a natural human response, but it doesn't have to be the deciding factor in your life. Living with this kind of faith also changes how you handle setbacks. Instead of viewing them as signs that you should give up, you see them as part of the journey. A closed door is no longer a reason to quit. It's simply a sign to knock on another one. A delay is no longer a source of frustration. It's a reminder that timing belongs to Allah. Faith gives you the resilience to keep moving, knowing that each step you take in trust is taking you closer to what is meant for you. This trust also transforms your relationship with the future. You stop fearing the unknown because you recognize that it's not truly unknown. Allah already knows what's ahead, and He is already preparing you for it. The future is not something to dread, it's something to anticipate with hope, because you know who is in control. This perspective allows you to live more fully in the present, making the most of each day instead of being paralyzed by what might happen tomorrow. And in the process, you discover that the peace you were searching for was never in knowing all the answers, but in trusting the one who holds them.